Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer, served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is time again as we broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Steve Sparky Fifer here as we are on the road again. We were on the road Friday. And we are on the road today as well, all thanks to Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink, no bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper. Of course, Brewers and D-backs getting underway coming up later tonight about 6:40. The leadoff show will be out here. I'm out here. Where is out here? Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue is where we are. Right there on 76th Street at the corner of 76th and Blue Mountain across from Pies High School. Come on out. This was a longtime staple of this radio station for years back in the day, and so happy to be back and being a part of Brewski's. And Brian, the owner, is still here doing great things over here. They've added a ton of barbecue stuff onto the menu since the last time the station was out here. Definitely got to check that out. Wings have been absolutely amazing since the time this place opened years ago, and I had to check to make sure the Skittle shots were still a thing. I cannot tell you how many times I have stopped off, got a Skittle shot, and then continued on my way to the game or whatever the case may be. So definitely want to come on out here, check out Brewski's shuttles to and from the game as well. So if you're going to the Brewers and D-backs game, stop on over, hop on a shuttle, and I'm telling you, it is amazing stuff. Like, I got the menu in front of me, man. We got pork butt, pound platters, sliced brisket, sausage dinner, half chicken dinner, baby back ribs, meatloaf dinner. It being a meatloaf guy, that's right up my alley. So all kinds of different burgers and sandwiches as well. Come on out, check us out. Brewski's Sports Club and Barbecue out here, 76.3 right across from Pies at the corner of 76th and Blue Mountain. Come out, say hi. We got all kinds of giveaways to give away as well. We have our relief pitcher t-shirts to give away with the fan logo on it. Plus, Sun Cruiser Vodka and Iced Tea gave us koozies, shirts, hats. If you want to get your hands on any of that, we have those out here too to give away. Coming up on today's show, Paul Bretl, Packers beat writer for ESPN Lacrosse, will join us coming up at 2:40. We'll talk about the Packers' last exhibition game against the Seattle Seahawks as we are all awaiting cuts to be made by the Green Bay Packers. Charlie Usen will be monitoring that throughout the show this afternoon. And as cuts come in, we will definitely keep you updated on that. So Paul will join us coming up at 2:40. Obviously, going to talk more about the deal with Bob Uecker, the celebration of life ceremony they had yesterday at American Family Field. I got some clips from that yesterday, and BrewerFanatic.com has a great piece up talking about the fact that maybe they should consider naming the field Uecker Field going forward. So we'll dive into that conversation at 3 o'clock. Let's first start off here at 2 o'clock. After looking at different projected rosters for the Packers, what positions do you think still need to be improved for this Green Bay football team as we sit here today? Nicolay Law Fan Talk and text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Sound off the recorded voice message on your Odyssey app, Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee as well. And let's have this conversation because, first of all, you knew that they needed an offensive lineman. They traded for an offensive lineman yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles giving up a sixth-round pick, not in 26, but in 27. They gave up a draft pick. And the question could be, well, why don't you just give it up for next year? Well, because they want to acquire additional sixth-round pick for 27 so they don't go a year without having, that sixth-round pick. Draft picks are gold for the Green Bay Packers, folks. Absolute gold, and they don't want to be without him. So, sixth-round pick, you bring back an offensive lineman. Now, not a big surprise, I would say, if you're a Packer fan, because the second unit has not played all that well. Guys like Telford and Jennings and those guys have struggled on that second and third string offensive line. You've had injuries to this offensive line, whether it be Banks or newest acquisition that you got from the San Francisco 49ers in the offseason at left guard. He's been battling a back issue and has been out weeks. Whether or not he's going to be ready to rock and roll and be healthy throughout the season, big question mark at this point. The center position, Elton Jenkins got hit in the back. He's been out for a while. You've had to play Sean Ryan from right guard to center. That also has been an issue for the Green Bay Packers as far as who plays right guard. They've been playing Donovan Jennings giving him some run at right guard. We've seen Belton Escalade getting some run at right tackle and at right guard. The Packers' second-round draft pick this year. Jordan Morgan has been playing at the left tackle position and then getting some snaps as guard as well. I think long-term, he wants to be at left tackle. I think long-term, the Green Bay Packers want him to be at left tackle. But as we sit here today and we ask, what position of need do they really still have at this point? I think it's clear as day. I think the offensive line is definitely front and center at this point, Charlie.
I would tend to agree with you normally. I think usually the offensive line is the first position group for any team that wants to rebuild their offense. That's where you want to make the first adjustments. And if there's issues at that group, you usually want to address that first. Because usually you don't want to know what the offensive linemen are doing. Usually it's probably a good thing if you never hear about an offensive lineman throughout a season, which means then you can focus on other parts of your offense. If the Packers offense, if that's the biggest issue with it right now, then you very obviously need to address it. I think right now, though, still looking at this team, as much as I believe in a Jeff Hafley, it would be nice to get maybe 1 to 2 more names in that defensive back group, 1 to 2 more names in that front seven group, in order to get some other people an opportunity to make a play in those situations besides what we're seeing. And I know we've liked what we've heard and seen from a Lucas Van Ness. We've liked what we've heard and seen from Rashawn Gary so far this offseason. A lot of these players are stepping up and making names for themselves. It would just be nice to have even more insurance behind those guys because in the past they haven't produced that same way.
The other part about this is when we talk about this Packers team and where they're looking to improve and so forth, and we were talking about this earlier when I was filling in for Thunder on the Mason Crosby show about that first game, and Mason's getting all hyped up and ready for it. I was like, man, I don't know what you're getting all hyped up and excited about. Like, half this team hasn't even played together in a good month or so. They haven't been on the field together. There's no guarantee Reed's going to be on the field. Haven't heard anything on Dontavian Wicks at this point. It appears Jordan Love should be ready, so that's good. The quarterback will be ready to play. But some of these other guys, Xavier McKinney at safety, he hasn't played. Hobbs at corner, their newest addition, he hasn't played. Banks, we talked about, he's been hurt throughout training camp. That's not good for the Packers either. So these things all play into how good and how cohesive of a unit this is really going to be at the end of the day. I agree with you about, some of these guys like Lucas Van Ness. I think Brenton Cox Jr. should be the starter. I'm sorry. With all due respect, Lucas Van Ness, you're not starting. Like, Rashawn Gary's going to be on one side, and on the other side is going to be our guy, Brenton Cox Jr. I think he's earned that job at this point to play. And then let Lucas Van Ness slide in maybe in the middle, use his power and whatever else case may be to try and get to that interior pass rush on obvious passing situations. I don't think that's really been brought up, but that might be something else I would consider doing too at this point. The other part about that defensive line is Kenny Clark now moves back to over the nose this year, replacing Slayton. He clearly did not live up to expectations last year. I think last year expectations were that he was going to have that monster breakout sack year, playing in this new position, being the Aaron Donald of this Packers defensive line, and he did not do that. And you can say part of that was due to injuries, fine. But if they thought he could do that, now that he is healthy, they would have left him in that position, and they chose not to. They chose instead to slide him over. So now what does that mean for the person starting next to him? That's what I want to see. And then who does that person end up being, Charlie?
I don't really think it matters that much as long as Kenny Clark feels better at nose tackle again. I think you can put a lot of different players, rotate 2 to 3 different guys at that spot, as long as Kenny Clark is now once again taking up 2 to 3 guys at any given moment at that nose tackle position. Last year, I think that was one of the biggest issues for this front seven, is that when they didn't have to focus on Kenny Clark, when he wasn't making as big of an impact at that 3 technique, it was a lot easier to focus on guys like Rashawn Gary, who may not have the deepest pass rush bag, but normally when he's one-on-one with an offensive tackle can figure it out and beat him with his hands, which is what he does best. But when there's 2 guys going right for Rashawn Gary because they don't have to worry about a Kenny Clark on the other side of the line, it makes it a lot harder for Rashawn Gary to hand fight with some of these offensive tackles and get around them that way. So when Kenny Clark is back in the middle, you are guaranteed 2 guys on him. Again, sometimes maybe even 3 guys if they're bringing the running back, if they're pulling the tight end to come help out in the middle of the field. It helps the defense a lot more. And then I don't think I'm as worried about that second defensive tackle spot, because that guy should, again, essentially just be somebody to take up a body while your pass rushers can get somewhere else.
The other part about this too, we talk about this, is that linebacking core. All this love and talk for Isaiah Simmons coming into this thing, and then after the first couple of games, and everybody kind of looks at the all-22 and says, "Holy crap, this dude's a train wreck! Like, what are we doing?" I still think there's a way for Isaiah Simmons to be on this football team, but it's going to be through the special teams unit more than likely. It appears Tyron Hopper has superseded him in that depth chart and taken over that role, and has put himself in the middle of it. Yesterday, again, another impact play from Quay Walker. Impact play, Tyron Hopper involved in a fumble. So these guys are getting involved from that second level, and they really need that. Whether it's Hopper, whether it's McDuffie, whatever. But Cooper has to be that impact player like he was last year, but more consistent, right? Not overrunning gaps and being more sound and assignments sure of what he's supposed to be doing. Quay Walker, can he continue to take a next step after he was showing to take a next step with Jeff Hafley those couple of weeks before he got hurt, where he was more of a blitzing linebacker? I would expect him to be used more like that, like he was, again, against the Seattle Seahawks on Saturday. That linebacking core could be really the difference maker from this being a good defense to maybe being a great defense, Charlie.
I mean, they're the captains of the defense. They have been for the past 100 years of football. That's where you want your most impact players to be. Those are the guys that can do the most on the field. And I know we're a little worried about what we saw from Isaiah Simmons, but like you said, he can be an impact player in other parts of this team. That's why they went and gave him an opportunity when really no other teams did. I don't think we really have to question whether or not he's that good of a player, because I think we know the caliber of player he is at this point, since no other team wanted to sign him. If you get anything out of him, that's a plus. That's what you want to see out of a guy like Isaiah Simmons, who, again, everybody passed on but the Green Bay Packers, and they find ways to turn guys around. I also feel like what we saw from this linebacker group last season under Jeff Hafley, in that first year of Jeff Hafley, is that they were able to go out there and have that type of impact, really no matter who was on the field in that group. We saw McDuffie have his moments. We saw all these different plays. Edgerrin Cooper, when he came back on the field, was just a beast coming back from that first injury of his career. Quay Walker, before he got injured, was a beast and was helping out a lot and was superseding expectations that we had set for him. And I think that's really important for this defense to continue to grow with that. Again, like we were talking about with the offensive line, the consistency that we saw last season, it's important to grow with that so that you can improve other parts of your team. I think it kind of goes for the linebacker group as well. If you can continue to grow with that, you can help then focus on other positions.
He is Charlie Hughes, see Sparky Fifer here with you at Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue. Come on out, hang with us, 76th Street, right there across from Pius. If you've never been out here, the food is amazing. Got to have the Skittle shots as well. Big fan of the Skittle shots. If you can't tell, I'm all about the Skittle shots. Also, when you're out here, make sure to stop on by, say hi, and take advantage of the great deal that brought us here, and that is that Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. If you've not had one, check it out. Made with real iced tea, real vodka, refreshingly smooth and easy to drink with no bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper, and you will thank me later after you have it because it is delicious. All right, coming up on the other side, we are going to get to talking about Trevor McGill and what happened yesterday in that Brewers game. Brewers lose 2 out of 3. In that series to the San Francisco Giants. If you're going to the D-backs game tonight, take the shuttle to and from the game right here at Brewski's on 76th Street, just off of Blue Mound. You will have a blast, I promise you that. But is there reason to be concerned over Trevor McGill's recent struggles? We'll discuss that straight ahead. Time now for your fan weather forecast. 65 degrees, mostly cloudy skies right now. High today of 69. Still have not reached that to this point. A low tonight, Charlie, of 49 degrees.
All right.
That is cold. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.
2. Yelich pulls it on the ground. It's through. A base hit. Here comes Durbin. He will score. A seeing eye single by Christian Yelich. A little Euchre Magic moved that around.
Yeah, slider.
Euchre Magic, baby. Just didn't have enough there at the end to overcome Trevor McGill blowing that game there in the 9th inning yesterday. Highlight courtesy of FanDuel Sports Network. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's out here at Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue, 76th Street, just by the corner of 76th and Blue Mountain across from Pius High School. Come on out and hang out. Great barbecue. Wings have been amazing for years. Skittle shots are really good. And then, of course, don't forget baseball calls for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. No bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper. Let's talk more about the Milwaukee Brewers. That was a big hit there by Christian Yelich. The one thing I wasn't concerned about yesterday about Christian Yelich was his production. I wasn't concerned that Christian Yelich wasn't going to be productive and do things in that game yesterday because you just knew with the Bob Uecker celebration of life and everything that goes along with it, Yelich's relationship with Uecker, the one time he uses Uecker's bat in the game day weekend, the players weekend, he hits 2 home runs with it. You knew Yelich was going to come through. I didn't think that we would be talking about Trevor McGill blowing a save in that game. The Brewers, for the most part, were kind of, doing their thing throughout that game and doing things the Brewers' way until the very end where McGill kind of gives it up and they lose that one at the end. And then you have Pat Murphy saying this afterwards.
I think we still have the best record in baseball, but we're not trending in the right direction. We got to let young guys, and what I mostly have to help them realize is this is a tough game. And if you're going to play like we've played to win, you've got to somehow dig down and play that way with that mentality every day. And it's really, really hard because it's just there's so many games. It's such a grind. But, yeah, no complaints from me. We haven't lost one like that in a while. And, we usually come back. If we give it up, McGill has been so great for us all year. But if you give it up, we come back and pick him up. Today we didn't.
And I understand exactly what he is saying at this point, right? I mean, I get Murphy's point. You've lost 2 back-to-back series. You lost 3 of 5 to the Cubs down in Wrigley. You lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants, who aren't a very good baseball team here at American Family Field. And now you get this D-backs team ready. Now, he obviously wants to turn this around as quickly as possible. So I don't think this was Pat Murphy sounding the alarms like some of you Brewer fans losing your mind on social media, acting like the season's over because they lost back-to-back series. It's baseball. They're not going to win at an 80% clip all season long. What they've been able to do since the middle of May is stunning, to say the very least, by how good they've played. But again, think about this. If I would have told you before the season, you'd have the best record in baseball, and your infield for a relatively large game over the weekend was Jake Bauers at first, Caleb Durbin at second, Monasterio at short, and who is the guy that I can't stand at third base?
Anthony Siegler.
Yeah, Siegler. And Siegler at third base. If that was your infield, if I told you that was your infield, you'd say, if that's our infield, they're not winning anything at this point. But that's the best team in baseball. That's what they ran out there this weekend for a starting infield. Siegler shouldn't be on this baseball team. His OPS is just over 500. He's brutal. I don't know why he's on this team. I'm going to complain about it every day till they send him down. So that's one issue. Monasterio is playing shortstop. Why? Because Joey Ortiz is bad. I went and looked up Monasterio's game logs yesterday. Now, offensively, he's been playing really well offensively for the last several games. But again, not many people are going to be as good as Joey Ortiz defensively. So you're going to lose something there with him at shortstop. Bryce Terang, he gets hit on the wrist. So what happens? Caleb Durbin has to play at second base. And again, I like Caleb Durbin, but he is not Bryce Terang offensively or defensively. So you have that. Then you have Andrew Vaughn playing every day. They needed to give him a day off. You had no other options other than Jake Bauers when you called him up. So Jake Bauers had to start. Earlier today, Mr. Wagner, Andrew Wagner, when he was on the Mason Crosby show, said, no days off, all these guys playing a ton is going to lead to some funky lineups. And my translation of that, Charlie, was bad lineups. It's led to some bad lineups throughout this run. And a lot of times they've overcome their bad lineups to still win. Now, on the precipice of return is Reese Hoskins, who's playing well down there in Nashville. I watched that game last night against the Louisville Bats. You have Jackson Churio working his way back as well. He was playing in center field last night for the Nashville Sounds. So you're going to add two relatively significant bats back into this lineup here at some point, and this offense should be okay. But the question is about Trevor McGill, who has given up runs in 3 of his last 4 games now. Should there be cause for concern over Trevor McGill's recent struggles? Nicolay Law Fan Talk at text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250, Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app. Also, we'll be making a programming announcement tomorrow. Adding some more programming to the Fan, a golden announcement tomorrow at 4 o'clock here on the Fan. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, another programming announcement, a golden one coming up tomorrow at 4 o'clock here on the Fan. You want to be tuned in to find out what new things we are adding to the Fan going forward for that. So should there be cause for concern over Trevor McGill's recent struggles? A piece in BrewerFanatic.com has me questioning whether or not this is something to be concerned about. Is not. I'm going to just read a couple of excerpts. McGill is trying to do his usual thing, but he's often finding either that he can't drive the ball downhill enough or that the spin-based relative lift he had a few months ago is missing. Vertically, he's gone from filling up the whole zone to living in the danger zone around waist high. Even at 100 miles per hour, hitters could square you up in the middle of the zone. McGill has been there this month because of his heavy use, has been there more this month because of his heavy use and the attendant decline in his sheer stuff. See, now again, this is the thing that we've been talking about for what, a month or two, Charlie, using, that they are really overworking this bullpen. Uribe is among the league leaders in appearances this year. There's no mistake there. Jared Koenig, they've used a ton. Nick Mears, they've used a ton when he's been healthy too. Then you go out and you get Shelby Miller, who has been kind of hit and miss since they've brought him over at the trade deadline. But he'd had off the whole month of July because he was out hurt at that point. So maybe the idea is to use Shelby Miller a little bit more. But like we were talking about with the bad lineups, now you're going to get into sacrificing close games and finding somebody else to pitch in the 9th inning if you want to start giving more rest to Trevor McGill to get his stuff back to where it's supposed to be.
The problem is you don't want to start giving them that rest too early. I think right now the Brewers are in beyond a good spot. They're one of the best team in the league, not one of the best teams, I think the best team in the league. And there's still enough of a cushion in front of the Cubs, but you don't want to give the Cubs any more ground than they already have. You want to keeping that lead. I think later on in the season, yeah, you can worry about then giving some of these guys rest. The problem is you're not far enough into the season yet. And Trevor McGill, I wouldn't be concerned about him specifically at this point. Yeah, it's probably a little bit of just being tired, but also they're on a really long stretch of games here. It feels like they haven't had a break in forever. And I know they've had off days here and there, but it just feels like they're just constantly going, and the starting pitchers aren't going deep enough in this game. What we've seen all season from him, though, is that he can be a 30-save guy, which he already is at this point in the season. If this was 5 saves into the season, now we're starting to get a stretch like this, yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned about Trevor McGill. But just like the rest of this team, he's proved me wrong time and time again. Every time I think that he's going to implode, every time I think this team is going to implode, they do not. And right now, he's having a rough stretch. The team is having a little bit of a rough stretch, but I believe in them a lot more right now than I did after the first month and a half of the season.
You know, the other part about this is with McGill, Koenig, and Uribe, when you start talking about, are you going to have to rest them? And I don't know how much of this has been talked about one way or the other, because to be honest with you, I don't know how much Chris Hook is talking to the media. That's something maybe we can ask Andrew Wagner coming up tomorrow when he joins us inside the clubhouse at 3:20. But how much is Chris Hook made available to the media? Because I think that is a great question for Chris Hook at this moment in time, which is, listen, at what point do you have to get concerned about guys wearing down? Like, you can use them like no tomorrow in April and May and June. And then you start to see the wear and tear as you get a little bit closer to the end of the season, come the middle to the end of August, come the beginning of September. And like you point out, yes, they have time. But at the same point, in a perfect world, you like to have Koenig, Uribe, and McGill all fresh as daisies come the postseason when that starts. And if you're able to hold on to that 1 seed, what does that get you? That gets you a bye. What does that get you? That gets you days of rest, which this team could definitely use at that point, especially for their bullpen and the relievers. They had to bring up Carlos freaking Rodriguez from AAA Nashville, who was probably the worst pitcher Nashville has had in the month of August, but you had to bring him up to pitch out of the bullpen because you had nobody else. You didn't have any other arms you could turn to. Then last night, I'm watching the Sounds game, and guess what? That was supposed to be Chad Patrick's start. So guess whose start it was? Robert Gasser got to make that start last night and got up to about 60 pitches, and they went and pulled him. You could tell Gasser was not happy, but again, coming off major injury, trying to take their time. Do not be surprised if Robert Gasser is up and into either the rotation or coming out of the bullpen at some point. This is a lefty that brings it. This is a guy that you acquired in the trade earlier, and Gasser last year pitched really well. And then he blew himself up with the Tommy John surgery, and now is working his way back this year. So Gasser is a name that you could have. We start talking about pitchers not working deep enough into games, right? Freddie Peralta, Saturday night, was at 60-some pitches in the third inning, y'all. In the third inning. Logan Webb in that same game didn't get to 60-some pitches to the fifth inning. That has been an issue going forward with Freddie Peralta of high pitch counts. When you get into the postseason, you literally are going to be in a situation where you're going to have somebody ready to come behind Peralta. So the belief now is, as of late, this could always change, but as of late, the belief is that Mizorowski is going to be coming out of the pen for the Brewers, okay? And the belief is that when we talk about Mizorowski, who does he piggyback with? Brandon Woodruff. Is that going to be a guy that's going to need to be piggybacked with? Because, again, he's coming off of injury. I don't think Quinn Priester is that guy. Priester has shown the ability to pitch deeper into games than anybody else has on this staff relatively consistently. So if Priester's your 3, Woodruff's your 2, and Peralta is starting, is Gasser, the lefty, coming behind him with some good velocity to match up with Peralta? Whereas Mizorowski, the second to Peralta, because you don't want to have to use those same 3 guys we just talked about game after game after game in the postseason. You want more length. You want to be able to get to the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. Eric Ashby now multiple times has pitched 2-3 innings in relief and finished a game for the Milwaukee Brewers without having to go to those other guys. That's very, very beneficial to the Brewers and something that they can pay attention to at this point. How would you go about managing Trevor McGill to try and get him back, try and get his velocity back, try to get his movement back? That is the big question mark that we have right now. Nicolay Law Fan Talk and text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. And you can also sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app, Facebook, and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Paul Bretl, Packers beat writer for ESPN Lacrosse, will join us coming up here in about 10 minutes. Don't forget, we are on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. Just search The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Over here at the dugout on the YouTube chat over here, Anton says, go ahead, Charlie. This is your deal. Go ahead. You read it.
So if we head over to the dugout, Anton, in my opinion, Trevor McGill should be used as a setup man for at least 1 week and possibly have Uribe close. I feel this would give Trevor some confidence back as a closer.
Listen, when we talk about having McGill switch with Uribe, I don't have a big problem with it. But I'd rather have Uribe close when McGill is given the day off versus McGill actually pitching in the game and pitching the 8th. Like, if you want to say, okay, Trevor, we're not going to pitch you here for a couple of days, and if there's save opportunities, we're going to use Uribe in that case and scenario. In fact, in this Brewer Fanatic article, they talk about pitching on 0 days of rest and how that worked out. Last year, McGill on 0 to 1 days of rest, a total of 20 times. This year, that number is already 25 times. He's appeared on 0 days of rest 5 times since the All-Star break alone, and another 3 times on a single day, Charlie. It's actually gotten worse since the All-Star break, and part of that is because you've had, multiple 11-game winning streaks here in the last month and a half.
I think the other part of it is that sometimes Trevor McGill, I think, just pitches when he doesn't really 100% need to pitch. I think it's helped secure games for the Milwaukee Brewers at points throughout this season. But I also think that since this All-Star break, in this streak we've had, it's been a lot about just making sure you keep that streak alive and making sure you're keeping this momentum alive. And if you're going to do that, that means keeping Trevor McGill in games and putting him into games where maybe that's not really a full save opportunity, or it's something where you just need the energy to change. That's the problem with Trevor McGill kind of being the energy of this team a lot of the time, is that when you need that energy late in games, you kind of have to put him out there because it feels like sometimes not everybody else is going to give you that. If Abner Uribe is not having a good outing, he doesn't really give you a whole lot of energy. Trevor McGill is out there giving this team energy no matter what. And I think that's kind of what they like. They like having his presence on the field during games, during important moments. And I think sometimes you kind of have to think about what that effect is going to have on him moving forward when you just want him to be out there to help motivate the rest of the guys.
Okay, that's fun. You said energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Energy. Okay. So is Uribe hopping and skipping off of the field? Is that the energy you're looking for? Because the Giants were hopping and skipping after they beat McGill yesterday.
It happens. But that's what I'm saying. When you're burning him out that way because you're putting him out there, yeah, that's going to happen. He's going to have moments like that. He is a MLB caliber closer that is going to give up a win sometimes. He's going to lose games. He's going to have blown saves. He's been pretty phenomenal this season. So, yeah, the Giants went out there and had fun against him yesterday. But the Milwaukee Brewers have had fun for 75% of this season up to this point and have been skipping off the mound and have Trevor McGill screaming after he strikes out the side and after his other 30 saves that he had this season and in appearances that he really didn't have to be in at points this season. I think that's where the issue lies, is that you are burning him out not only through pitching but mentally as well. When he constantly has to be the energy for this team, that kind of slows you down a little bit.
Okay, well, if we're going to be honest here, who else are you getting energy from here? Jared Koenig? That's no. Shelby Miller's old. No, it's not going to be Shelby Miller at this point. Let's see who else. Nick Mears, maybe Mears. Maybe Mears gives you a little something over there from that relief pitcher standpoint. But as far as the swag and everything that goes along with it, the two guys are McGill and Uribe. And then on the pitching side, on the starting pitching side of things, obviously Mizorowski has this young flamboyant thing that goes kind of along with him. But outside of him, Woodruff, not really. Peralta can get a little emotional, I guess. So maybe Peralta gives you a little something of that. Priester, not much there. And Quintana likes talking to everybody. So whether that's good or that's bad, Quintana seemingly talks to every dugout and is mad about something, chirping at somebody one way or the other. I want to see what they do when we get to September and you can expand rosters. Now it's very limited. Right back in the day, you could expand like 5 guys and bring 5 guys up from the minors and give the Cooper Pratts of the world a couple chances to get opportunities and so forth. I want to see what the move is. Like, are you going to bring up and give somebody a chance to play third base over what you have right now in Siegler? Are you going to bring up somebody from Double-A and say, all right, Kat, let's see what you got. Let's see if you can make this work here in September, and let's see what you can do with it. Because right now at Double-A, or at high A, I should say, with the Timber Rattlers, you have Pena at second base and Made at shortstop. Okay, that's fine. They're not close enough. That's not going to get it done, right? So now you're talking about AAA or Double-A at this point. There's nobody to write home about probably with the AAA Nashville Sounds. So then the next opportunity is, do you go out and possibly sign a veteran that might be out there on the street, Charlie, that might be a little bit older and up there in age, may not be a young guy or younger guy like Siegler, to add another veteran into that lineup that has been in the postseason, has played a little bit in place of Anthony Siegler? Or is it just we're going to ride who we came here with and see what happens?
I think there's opportunity for both of those to happen right now. Pat Murphy last week said that Anthony Siegler wasn't going to get replacement minutes for any of the guys when they were going to shift things around. Somebody asked if Siegler was going to be starting at third base, and he basically said, no, I don't think so. And now Anthony Siegler's starting at third base.
Yep.
So really anything can kind of change at this point in the season for this Milwaukee Brewers team. I don't know if it's really now at this point smart to just bring up a minor league guy and say, go figure it out in the last month of the season, regular season here, going into the postseason. Yeah, maybe you can get some kind of unforeseen things that happen with a player like that where teams just haven't seen him yet, so he can kind of get the jump on them. You saw that a couple years ago with the Texas Rangers when they brought up Evan Carter to play for them in the playoffs. And it was basically the same kind of timeline. About 2 months before the season, they let him come up and he was awesome. After that, he wasn't very awesome. And now they're kind of questioning whether or not he's going to be a part of that organization moving forward here. So you can get something like that to help you out. At the same time, I mean, if it's working, which I know they lost 2 straight series, but it's 2 straight series against one being the Cubs, one of the best teams in the National League, whether or not they're in second place in the NL Central or not. They're one of the best teams in the National League. And then the San Francisco Giants, who started the season as one of the better teams in the National League, and are about 500, but aren't a bad baseball team. They're a baseball team that's still trying to play baseball right now. So you can't really hang your head on those and automatically jump to the conclusion that we need to move on from a Siegler or somebody else while Joey Ortiz is hurt, because Joey Ortiz is going to get healthy again. And we'll get back to the same situation we have been in for the past 2 months where we were the best team I think I've ever seen play baseball with my own 2 eyes.
Do we know how long Ortiz is going to be out?
Nope.
I don't think we know. It's
Reese
a
Hoskins
hamstring.
has been out for like a whole extra month at this point. So.
Correct. Right. So we don't really know. But what they've said is they don't think it's as serious as maybe it could have been at this point. So you're hoping to get through, this with Monasterio playing shortstop every day and trying to get to the other side of it. Coming up next, so we're going to change our gears. We're going to go back to the Green Bay Packers. And I am looking forward to this. Always love having Paul Bretl on, Packers beat writer for ESPN Lacrosse. He'll join us coming up next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, out here at Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue. Baseball calls for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink with no bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper. Don't forget, Potawatomi Sportsbook, perfect place to go for your fantasy football draft. They've got 2 levels, 6,500 square feet. The center screen is 2,000 square feet, man. It is gigantic. You get to go up on the second level, your own private fantasy football draft with everybody in your league, 14 teams or less. You have private elevator passes to get up there. Nobody else will be able to get up there. They offer you a smorgasbord of food. They offer you 3 drinks to each team in the league. They offer you the poster board, all the stickers for all your draft picks, a podium to make your draft picks from. Check it out today. There is a fee for each team, but I'm telling you, there's no guarantee they're ever doing this again. Take advantage of it while you can. It's an awesome experience. All you have to do is go to Potawatomi.com/sportsbook, Potawatomi.com/sportsbook.
It's 3rd down and 8 for Jalen Milroe. Got the block, crumbling pocket, and taken down. Quay Walker.
Highlight courtesy of the Packers TV Network. Channel 4 here locally in Milwaukee. Game was on NFL Network too, but I'm sure you found out that if you record the NFL Network, there was no game. It was only on Channel 4 here locally. See Sparky Fifer with you as we broadcast live from Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue. Come on out of here. The wings, the barbecue, absolutely outstanding. You will love it. Take a shuttle to and from the game tonight. All home games, they take you to and from the game. Baseball calls for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. Refreshingly smooth and easy to drink with no bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper. Check it out here at Brewski's. Join us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. You can see his pretty mug on a picture because he's not with us in real, well, how would you say that? I mean, you're here in real life. I don't know. The Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. He is Paul Bretl of a Packer beat writer for ESPN La Crosse, Wisconsin. Follow him on Twitter at Paul_Bretl. How are we doing, Paul?
I'm excellent, Sparky. Happy to be talking Packers with you.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the trade last night with the Philadelphia Eagles. You get a 6th-round pick. In 2027, you give up. You get back an offensive lineman from the Eagles, and this dude is like a legend because he's gone the last couple Super Bowls regardless of what team he's on. So that means the Packers are going to the Super Bowl. Were you surprised by the move?
No, not at all whatsoever. I mean, coming out of that Colts game, the second preseason game, the post-game article that I wrote was just about the unsteadiness of the offensive line depth. We know the Packers have a very, very solid top 6 guys, right? We're not concerned about that group. But if we look around the NFL and some of the injury data from just last season, teams oftentimes need not just a 6th lineman, but a 7th and sometimes an 8th offensive lineman that you can count on. And throughout the summer, the guys competing for those 7th, 8th, 9th spots, Anthony Belton, Donovan Jennings, Jacob Monk, were very up and down at best. Belton had the penalties. Monk's dealing with an injury as of late. Both him and Jennings had very, very sporadic play. The depth of that group was very much, to me, watching these practices day in and day out, a big question mark. Nobody was consistent enough. Nobody was really stepping up to secure that, final roster spot and taking advantage of that opportunity that was there. So going out and making addition was very much on my radar. And on my final roster prediction, I even wrote that in during the offensive line section. And so when you get a player like Kennard, someone that the Packers had in during the pre-draft process, can play tackle, can play the guard position, and really he just gives them another option off the bench at the offensive line position, which again, for all the reasons mentioned, they definitely needed a boost in depth.
The other thing, talking about this situation, the offensive line, is this Jordan Morgan, Rasheed Walker thing that drives me nuts. Because I think if you look at it, if Banks back is going to continue to act up throughout the season, you have Jenkins who got hit in the back. If those are going to continue to be issues, then Sean Ryan's going to be playing center. Jordan Morgan probably is going to be playing right guard. Jordan Morgan could be playing left guard at this point. Who knows? Don't you think it's fair to say at this point right now that Jordan Morgan probably is going to play more guard this year than he is tackle?
I think that's very fair to say. I mean, just given like you mentioned, the injuries and Aaron Banks being sidelined this last week with the back injury. I mean, that's something that this summer specifically has been reoccurring. He's missed a few other practices here and there. So there's going to be that unknown going into the year with him. But I do know the coaching staff has spoken very, very highly about Jordan Morgan and his play, especially in the preseason games, the family night scrimmage, kind of those bigger moments during the summer. Really impressed with how he stepped forward and played. And then you have Rasheed Walker, again, 35 starts under his belt. And coming into the summer, I was very, very adamant that I firmly believe that Rasheed Walker is going to be the starting left center for the Packers. And I still feel that way. But again, for the reasons mentioned with Morgan's performance, I've waned on that confidence a little bit. But if everyone is fully healthy, this is the point that I'm at right now. I think if everyone's healthy on the offensive line, I think that we're going to see a rotation at left tackle in games, like we've seen with Rasheed Walker and Yosh Nijman, Runyon and Ryan and Morgan. And a couple of weeks ago, early portion of training camp, Adam Stenovich was at the podium talking with us, and he said, we're not afraid if we feel that we have 6 guys, 7 guys that are worthy, deserving of playing time, we're not afraid to do a rotation. And obviously we've seen that from them during the regular season over the last couple of years. So everyone being fully healthy, that's kind of what my guess is in terms of how they get Jordan Morgan involved in the offense. But like you said, he provides them with a ton of flexibility because he can play 4 of the 5 positions on the line.
I have never, ever heard a veteran offensive lineman that was any good ever say, yeah, I really support this rotating offensive lineman in next to me throughout a game. Like, this is just a great idea. Just absolutely love it. I've never heard anybody like this. The dudes that aren't playing in the trenches, the dudes that are sitting over there holding a clipboard, oh, yeah, this is great. We're just going to rotate guys in and let all these other dudes have to deal with it. Let Aaron Banks have to deal with the chemistry of playing next to a different guy every time they get the football. It is dumb. It's been dumb the entire time that Matt LaFleur has done this, him and Stenovich. I completely am against it 100%. If you don't have the guts to make the move, then don't make the move.
Yeah, that continuity component that you mentioned, it's so vital to offensive line play, right? That's a position where the sum of the parts are greater than any one individual. You can have the best right tackle in football, but if the left side of your offensive line isn't very good, your overall offensive line play might be average at best. And so that continuity component's important. And when you're moving players in and out, it is something to be mindful of, because it's not just, if you're the left guard, knowing what your role and responsibility is. Of course, that's important. But in specific situations, if there's a blitzer, if there's a stunt, if there's a twitch, knowing how the guy next to you is going to respond in those situations, like, that's really, really valuable information to have, because that can dictate, again, you have your responsibility, but maybe how you attack your responsibility. And Adam Stenovich's, I guess, rebuttal to that would be that they've been rotating these guys throughout the summer. It's something that they've done a lot of, right? And we've seen it, we've talked about it. So you're still building that continuity, that chemistry that then can hopefully carry over into the regular season. But again, from just a fundamental offensive line point and what most teams are trying to accomplish, this very much does go against the grain.
It absolutely does. Paul Bretl of ESPN La Crosse, Wisconsin. Follow him on Twitter at Paul_Bretl. Covers the Packers for them. Does an amazing job. I always enjoy having him on. You can check it out on your Odyssey app as we stream live right now, or on YouTube. Like us, subscribe to us, share us, all that fun stuff. Let's talk about the defensive line. Lucas Van Ness, in my opinion, had one really good day of practice in training camp, which was great. But if you're giving me an option of I can have anybody I want starting at end opposite Rashawn Gary, it's Brendan Cox Jr. for me. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Brendan Cox has been really, really impressive this summer. And I will say, I think Lucas Van Ness has been as well. I mean, what I would say about Van Ness is what we saw was far more consistency from him, where there was a steady getting into the backfield, a steady playmaking presence throughout the summer. And when it comes to, again, hopefully that carrying over into the regular season, I think the steadiness, consistency is something much greater to hold on to than, those big splash plays or big splash days here and there. I think that's more of substance when it comes to what we can hopefully expect. I think with Van Ness specifically, and Gary's talked about this, Kenny Clark has talked about this, but being in year 3, I think there's this understanding of obviously his role and responsibility, but how to respond. I mean, he came out of the draft very, very raw, fewer than 1,000 career snaps at Iowa, most of which came at defensive tackle. Everyone knew there was going to be a learning curve. And Gary talked about how for him personally, it was that 3rd season where he felt comfortable, right? And not just in what his job is, but all right, if the offensive lineman's going to do this, here's how I'm going to respond, developing that secondary move to counter how the offensive lineman's countering you. And from the sound of it, it sounds like Lucas Van Ness is kind of in that state right now. And then again, there's the added comfort of being in Hafley's defense for another year, the roles, responsibilities that come with that. So again, I know we have to see this ultimately take place in the regular season. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what happens during this time of the year. But I am bullish on him again, just because of what we saw consistently throughout the summer.
A lot of praise, Paul Bretl of Tyron Hopper, and the improvement he's made from last year to this year. When Cam started, Simmons was in front of him on the depth chart. Hopper now seemingly has passed him there. How much of a role do you see him playing in this defense? Does he surpass McDuffie next?
I think that's what the Packers' hope is, but I think going into the early portion of the regular season, I would have him as linebacker 4 on my depth chart, and I don't know how much we're going to see him in games. And my reasoning for that is because for most of his reps this summer, they came at middle linebacker. Like, you could tell there was a concerted effort on the Packers' part that, all right, here's where we're going to get him ready to play. And so when he was out there with the second team defense throughout the summer, he was the middle linebacker, calling the plays, making the pre-snap adjustments. And like you said, you really saw his growth with that. And then he brings just this level of physicality to the linebacker position, as we saw in a couple hits as well. He did get some reps at outside linebacker with the third team defense. So it's not as if the Packers aren't trying to cross-train him. But like I said, he was working mostly at middle linebacker. So when it comes to playing time, that's Quay Walker's role. And that's going to be Quay Walker's role in this defense. We know that. So I just don't know, because, again, of how much they worked him at that position, how many opportunities he would get, replacing McDuffie, who's filling that Sam and Will outside linebacker spot.
Could Quay slide over and replace McDuffie with Hopper in the middle?
I'm never going to say that that's not in play because of the versatility of Jeff Hafley's defense. And we saw it last year, not at linebacker, but just throughout the defense, his willingness to move guys around, to throw different looks at opposing defenses. So I'm never going to fully say that that's off the table, but I would say right now that I'm not going to anticipate that. I think the Packers, based on what we've seen this summer, are fully committed to Quay Walker being their middle linebacker. I know the injury late last season against Seattle derailed things, but there was a month stretch where he was playing some really, really good football. And so I think they're very committed to him filling that role, and they're going to lean on him to do so.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then why does he have an extension? If they're so bullish on that guy being the guy, then why hasn't he been extended? Because at this point, if we're being honest about things, as well as Hopper is playing, and if I'm Walker and seeing how well Hopper is playing, and I still don't have a contract extension, I might be a little bit concerned here.
Yeah, I think when Brian Gutekunst made those comments earlier in the offseason, and he said it a couple of times, right? We want Quay around for the foreseeable future. I think for the most part in Brian Gutekunst's tenure, when he says something that definitive, it ends up being true far more often than it doesn't. But to your point, you see how Hopper's playing at the Mike linebacker position, and you do start to wonder a little bit if those feelings internally for the Green Bay Packers of Quay Walker are now starting to wane a little bit because of what they see from Hopper. I think the big thing, because Quay was coming off of the ankle surgery, getting him back into the mix, I think these first few months for Quay in terms of securing that extension are really going to be everything. We've seen with other players. I think David Bakhtiari was around a November extension. Elton Jenkins was a December. So we've seen the Packers lock these guys up fairly deep into the season. So I could see these first few months for Quay being, when it comes to an extension, a bit of an audition, right? Can he pick up where he left off last season before getting injured? And if so, then I think if you're the Packers, you might take the sure thing in terms of what he's showing you. And you always have the flexibility to move Hopper around. But if he's struggling, then maybe you go into the offseason and kind of see where Tyron Hopper might take you.
Packers beat writer Paul Bretl joining us from ESPN Lacrosse. Follow him on Twitter at Paul_Bretl. Give me a surprise cut that maybe nobody's talking about.
So that's a great question. And as I was putting together my roster prediction, I was trying to look and find who that player might be. And I'll be honest, it was difficult. The reason I say it was difficult is because there's so much continuity on this roster, right? Like, it felt like coming into this season, there really weren't that many roster spots that were up for grabs. So I don't know if it falls in the surprise category, but left off my roster, I had McCole Hardman left off in favor of Malik Keith. I had Isaiah Simmons left off in favor of Christian Welch. And I guess maybe one surprise that I could throw out there is Jacob Monk. And again, his play, like I mentioned at the top of all this, he struggled during preseason in training camp. So I think the surprise element would be that he is still a year 2 draft pick. And in terms of how the Packers typically operate, moving on that soon from a player, that's that early in their rookie deal, I think would be the surprise element to it.
There he is, Paul Bretl. Again, follow him on Twitter at Paul_Bretl. Paul, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sparky. Appreciate it.
There he is, Paul Bretl on Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. And we are out here at Brewski Sports Club and Barbecue. Come on out, say hi, 76th Street, right across there from Pius High School by the corner of Blue Mound. We got our relief pitcher shirts out here. Come grab one of those if you'd like. We also have our sponsor out here, and the reason that we were able to be on the road, they gave us some T-shirts, they gave us some hats, all that kind of fun stuff. And that's Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka, refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. No bubbles to fill you up. It's the perfect game day sipper, and it is game day today. The Brewers and the D-backs. I'll be out here to 5 o'clock with the Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Then from 5 until 6:30, Tommy Wirtz will be out here doing the leadoff show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Let's talk about our fine folks over there at Wendy's. You love Wendy's classic chocolate and vanilla frosty flavors. There's some big news. They're all new Frosty Swirls and now Frosty Fusions. It's the same creamy treat you've always loved, now with a flavor refresh. So what are these new flavors? Okay, well, we've got the Frosty Swirls, strawberry, brownie, batter, and caramel. We know about those. Now the Frosty Fusions, Oreo brownie, caramel crunch, has like pieces of toffee in it, and Pop-Tart strawberry. So clock in for sweet treat time with Wendy's. All new Frosty flavors. A refresh on a classic. It's got to be Wendy's. Coming up on the other side, we'll talk more about what happened yesterday before the Brewers game, as it was a celebration of life for Bob Uecker. We'll discuss that and an interesting idea from Brewer Fanatic about naming the field going forward. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.